All right, so time for surprise boss fight.
Oops.
Man, don't you hate it when a bug person just lands on your back out of nowhere?
It's the
Dude,
Dark
like,
Elf
I'd be
King.
a little concerned if the mosquitoes started getting me in a full Nelson.
So yeah, this boss gimmick is that he inflicts darkness.
Oh
just
man, we
talking
got
about
sunglasses on this whole time? Lame.
Yes.
Weren't we just talking about off screen how Disney World has like a system to murder all the mosquitoes on the premises?
That's probably why I went for mosquitoes first, because it was just lingering in my head. So clearly, we need to take this dude to Disney World and just let Disney do the rest.
Yeah, you see, by the time he
they-
gets halfway through Epcot,
they-
he won't have any money left and he'll die. So, you know.
Look at this guy. They'd probably hire him to work Pirates of the Caribbean. Come on.
That... I don't know, like...
That ride's just never been the same since he had all the Johnny Depp cameos.
It is a bit weird that they made a movie based on a ride.
Twice.
No, they've
And
not just
the movie
twice. They've
just-
done it a ton of times. Do you remember the Country Bear movie? You absolutely should not. It's terrible.
Oh, that's the live action.
Yeah, there's a
one?
lot,
like-
and they're terrifying. The bears are terrifying.
But like the movie they came up with for it became like way more well known than the ride itself.
Well, yeah, because most people don't get to go to Disney World, or if they
Most
do,
people
they go like
most
once.
people only know that Disney World has Pirates of the Caribbean as a ride because Ian Malcolm mentioned it in Jurassic Park. Or was it The Lost World? I forget.
Honestly, after the first two, they all kind of blend in together.
He makes a snarky comment about how when something goes wrong in Disney World, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
I mean,
it's a funny line.
Is that not just the plot of Five Nights at Freddy's?
You're gonna be smug and
It absolutely is the plot of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Do you remember the answer?
yeah.
Oh, geez. There's another big thing that, like... I'm a little surprised that it's actually finally fading out of prominence, sort of.
Five Nights? No, there's a new
I mean,
game that just came out, and people are all over it. So.
No, I mean, like, it's not as everywhere
Well,
as it
all
was.
over for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah. I'm surprised it took that long for Horny for Freddy Fazbear to happen, but you know.
No, not even that. I mean, that's been a thing for
Oh,
years.
it has. Oh, okay.
But yeah, but it's more like the new game is interesting concept-wise, but it's janky as shit and very obviously unfinished.
Oh.
Aren't all the games janky
Yeah.
though?
No, I mean, it depends on the game.
Most of the Five Nights at Freddy's games are simple enough that jank
Yes.
never becomes an issue.
This is like the first quote-unquote large-scale FNAF game because it's like it's fully 3D and like you can
Move around
pretty
and
much
stuff.
it's basically a Metal Gear Solid game. Let's be real.
That's interesting.
But it is very buggy, and it has a lot of borderline antiquated and awful designs that hold it back tremendously.
It's almost as if the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's isn't actually a video game designer, and just sort of.
well, he
happened
had
on
nothing
a
to do with
really
this.
Fun. Oh, really?
Yeah, because he stopped making the games
Yeah,
after I think a couple of years
he sold
ago.
the franchise a while ago.
Yeah,
Oh, so what you're telling me is that Five Nights at Freddy's is experiencing its very own Crash Wrath of Cortex era.
I was thinking more
don't know.
Minecraft, but like not. Yeah, Minecraft kind of
I mean,
situation.
Minecraft never really got a sequel so much as it just got a bunch of expansions to the existing game. That's really all Minecraft is. It's just expansions piled atop expansions at this point. Some reprogramming to make it work on modern hardware and on consoles, maybe, but essentially the same game. But it's interesting that FNAF went this direction, though, because you think if he sold the game, if he sold the franchise to presumably an actual game developer, they'd be able to make a better game out of it.
I don't know anything about how the game's actually made, so I can't tell you about. Like,
Well, I
that.
mean, I know that the creator of FNAF is not, like, strictly speaking, a game designer. Like, Five Nights...
no, he was. It's just that his original focus is just weren't good, or at least weren't received very well.
Well, I mean, like in the sense that most professionals nowadays are, the skill set is different.
Oh, in terms of yeah,
Like
because I think he has a completely different sort of
yeah, but you know, there's value even in that, because eventually it drove him to create an artistically interesting little experience that showed merit through its simplicity and achieved its horror through what by rights should be considered an outdated visual style. But you know, it worked. It really worked, and it's an interesting case study. But then, you know, now that it's a franchise, I would have expected the people who bought that franchise to, you know, bring some of the modern flair into it. Now that they've presumably got someone with those,
which
skills.
I think might have been the plan, but they clearly needed at least another 6 months, I would say.
Is it like one of those cases where like maybe development just got stalled?
Or do you think there's more to see?
It might have been stalled. It might have been the pandemic. Might have been a couple of things. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that the game is clearly not finished.
It's just odd that that's the result. You'd think they'd want to avoid that after the FNAF RPG.
Just to help her survive?
The FNAF
Twice in a
RPG
row.
just kind of felt like a decent like RPG Maker kind of game. Like, had this been something somebody made in their free time, you know, you would have thought it was pretty impressive, but it wasn't. I mean, didn't they give away the game for free?
That's you know, at this point in time, that's a bit of a weird point of reference to talk about, because there are plenty of RPG Maker games that are sold commercially now. And
That was a little bit before that generally happened, though, because the game came out like what 2015.
oh no, there have been RPG Maker games selling on Steam for ages.
Which ones did he go to? What did he collect?
Like, and a lot of the time, the only kind of low quality looking thing about them is that for a long time they were very obviously made in an older version of RPG Maker that couldn't do high resolution very well. So a lot of the games were just really good looking, well put together games that ran at a low resolution. But like, how do I put this? The FNAF RPG kind of showcases the simplicity I was talking about in the FNAF creators' skill set, without any of the stuff that made that simplicity interesting.
Yeah, when you take it out of its horror element, it just... Because my problem with the FNAF World RPG was that just at a glance, it looked so fucking vanilla.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want anything to do
Whereas
with it.
the mainline FNAF games, they kind of look like a natural evolution of that Myst style game, you know, where everything is a pre-rendered background, and, you know, your camera might swivel around, but you're not necessarily moving much. And they make up for lack of, like, 3D environments by having certain elements be animated pre-render things. It's, you know, I have a lot of respect for FNAF. Despite it being the kind of game I could never in my like weirdest moods ever think about getting into.
Well, I think that's part of why it did so well is that it's not the kind of game a lot of people want to play, but it's certainly the kind of game a lot of people want to watch on Twitch and on YouTube. So
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing with
I don't even like
the new
watching
game.
it, to be honest. But
That depends. Like, I mean, because for me personally, when that last FNAF game came out, I watched the Markiplier playthrough because I think he's a genuinely good content creator.
Oh, yeah.
And I also watched a no commentary run because I wanted to see all the little nuances, and that's where I pretty much got like, this game needed more time.
it's unfortunate. It is. I hope they do better next time. There is going to be a next time. FNAF.
Absolutely. They sell. There's merch.
absolutely
There's books. There's all sort of like. I was really surprised at how large of a child audience the series has. I mean, I guess it's not that surprising considering that it got popularity through a lot of YouTubers and streamers that are popular with kids.
What I'm surprised is they never made like an escape room attraction with it.
Well, that's the thing, is that FNAF is a genuinely scary horror game, but it doesn't reach into any, like, gore or, like, direct, explicit subject matter that would drive the age rating up. So it is actually a really good horror game for a younger audience.
I mean, it's not like there's not a lot of blood on screen, but like the way that they describe a lot of the deaths and what happens to people, I don't know if I would want my kid knowing about that, because they
No,
like talk
like,
about the
it's-
bodies being mangled and crushed and torn apart by these animatronic
Yeah,
things,
it is.
and I'm
Like the
Jesus.
demographic may be young, but it is not a game for kids.
Well, yeah, but like describing things in words has, for basically forever, not been as objectionable
Oh yes, of
to
course.
younger
Like,
people than showing it visually. Like a lot of books I read when I was younger would at least, like in a superficial sense, describe that something gruesome had happened to someone.
I've brought
They might,
this up
like,
before, but in the Animorphs
Yeah.
books, the characters literally like get their intestines ripped out of their bodies and like
Yeah.
go through psychological electro chamber torture and other shit. And it's just like, how did I read this when I was 8 years old and not notice any
Yeah,
of
but
that?
the way it's written is more descriptively vague.
No, they're pretty
So-
explicit at certain points.
Well, I mean,
but, like,
they're not going full Stephen King.
They're not going.
is
No,
what
they
I'm
don't talk. They don't like spend forever on it, but it's still like.
Like they'll flat out say something like your guts got ripped out, but they won't describe what the guts looked like as they plopped to the floor. You know, so it's that lack of an explicit visual description that is essentially the bar. It's not a bad thing for a child to know that if you're badly injured enough, your guts might get ripped out, but it is kind of a bad thing to show, in air quotes,
You shoot your eye out,
them what that looks like.
Oh
you know?
God! Okay. Controversial statement time. I
Oh, boy.
can't stand A Christmas Story. I can't stand it. Don't get it.
All
Don't
right, so here's
understand
thing.
the appeal
Here's-
at all.
So here's the thing. I like the movie. I don't love it. I like it, but I am also sick of it, and I blame TBS.
A Christmas Story is one of those movies for me where I like parts of it, and then I like other parts of it because they're kind of in the that's so bad it's good territory, you know?
No, I think it's a genuinely good movie.
I think it's a
Like,
genuinely good movie too. I also think it's just a generally good movie.
I mean,
that
if you
has
put
some-
on any movie for
cringe
24
moments.
hours straight, like, you're gonna get sick of it. Like, even if it's like,
Yes.
if you watch Shawshank Redemption, one of the best movies of all time, 7 times in a row, you're gonna be sick of it. So, you know, that's just part of how
mean,
life is.
I mean, I did something similar on a overly long international flight once, where you had the little TVs on the back of the chairs and all that. And
I mean,
you had
I don't
some things
know.
you could watch. So it's like, oh boy, there's absolutely nothing I like to watch here except for Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll just have that on, so I have something to listen to this entire plane ride back. It's like, okay, now I'm sick of it. Please get it off.
I don't know. I've been just listening to the same Arlo video in the background as I do delivery runs for the past 2 weeks, and it hasn't gotten old yet. So your mileage may vary on that depending on what you're talking about.
I mean, everyone's got their. Sorry, I was stepping away from the mic there for a second. Everyone's got their preferences, but I hate when I become aware that, John, this is like the 5th time this week you've watched this video. And it's like every time I even think about, like, I'm going to try expanding my horizons this time. Let's find a new podcast or something like that. I ended up going back to the same fucking one I just listened to yesterday.
Let's see, you could play that game that's been on your backlog for 6 years.
Super Metroid again.
Or I could replay Pokemon Crystal.
I'm on my 3rd consecutive Breath of the Wild playthrough, and I'm not stopping.
Consecutive.
Yes. Well, technically, 2 of them are being run in parallel because I'm streaming a modded playthrough, and then I'm playing the game normally for recording purposes, and then I'm playing like another modded playthrough in my own time.
Oh, modded. You playing? What are you emulating it?
Oh yeah, I'm using this Semu mod, the Semu emulator, because like with all the graphics packs active, it like it's basically like traveling forward 10 years and playing the HD version.
Okay.
On like the Switch 3 or something.
The switcher.
Now the
Switchist.
Switchist. Switcher is Switch
Toss a coin to
2.
your switcher.
It's Switcher is Switch 2. Switchist is Switch 3. So yeah.
Switched.
But like it runs really goddamn well, and you can make the draw distance problems like a non-issue. So yeah, I'm playing it modded, and boy is it glorious.
Sorry, there's a part of me that wants to, like, I know people make a bit of a stink about it like a month and a half ago. No, it was a month ago. No, like 2 months ago actually, when Dread came out, and people were emulating it. And,
Well, yeah, but that's a game that looks fine on native hardware.
It was more that
Yeah.
like.
Well, it's more like I would emulate it just to get rid of the damn load times.
Well,
Well,
the
yeah,
thing
that's
was
probably-
more that they
probably
were
not.
like, you should emulate
I mean,
And the game had been out
Metroid
less than a
Dread,
week.
the game, the weekend
yeah,
that it
like
came out.
that's why I got this thing. Yeah, I remember like that's exactly why I got this thing over it. And it's true. Like you don't fucking make an article about that like the day after or 2 days after the game went out.
that just kind of encourages the people who pirate games to pirate them because like it's like right at launch. At this point, you know,
And
let the game sell a little
yeah.
bit, you know.
And here's the other thing that bothers me. I know that video game piracy and emulation can be a touchy subject a lot of the time. But generally speaking, I feel like the overall attitude is if you're emulating something that's old or obscure or that you otherwise couldn't afford, people are more okay with it. You know, just like you generally speaking wouldn't be able to get the Shining Force RPG on Saturn. You know, like that's a $300 game.
You basically need to fan translate
Yeah.
2/3 of that game.
Yeah, but
but
when you're talking about emulating Metroid Dread with the kind of graphics packs and stuff that people are talking about in that article, it's just like you're not gonna tell me that if you can run that kind of emulator with those kinds of settings that you can't afford it. I'm gonna raise my eyebrows a little bit at you.
Well, I don't even think like that article went into graphics packs and stuff. I just think it like went into basic. This game already works well on emulators. You know, that was the thrust of the article, and that was why people took issue with it. It's like, okay, at this point, why are you making this article that serves no functional purpose, but to tell people who don't follow emulation that they can pirate this game now? Because all the people who do follow emulation for the legitimate reasons, they found that shit out on their own. You know, they're on like community boards and stuff that evaluate the compatibility of various games, and they will notice when a high-profile game is compatible. It's just like that article served no purpose whatsoever, except
to get clicks.
Except to get clicks by cashing in on the crowd that probably shouldn't be allowed near an emulator ever.
Oh shit, the part's over.